About healthy relationships, and our focus will continue, or our model will continue to be the family, but it will be not just our biological families, but our church family. And because that continues to be our focus, I want to talk about 6 elements of a healthy relationship, and just amazingly, they are fun, attention, memories, inspire, love, yield, which all spells family. Okay, so we're going to hop right in. We have a baptism at the next service, and I'm going to have to dash at about 9:45 or 10:00. We're going to start right in with fun. Healthy relationships. Have fun. Laughter and fun should be a natural element in your relationships. Be it your family, your biological family, your church family, your work family. Fun should be a natural element. We Christians should be a model for fun. Unfortunately, too many folks, when they talk about the church, when they talk about Christians, the one word that they use is boring. The stereotype of Christians is we're nerdy, we're boring, we're unhip. In John 10, verses 9 and 10, Jesus said, "I am the gate. Anyone who comes through me will be cared for, will freely go in and out, and find pasture. A thief is only there to steal and kill and destroy. I came so that they can have real and eternal life, more and better life than they ever dreamed of." One element of that more and better life that Jesus came to bring is fun. In Proverbs, the writer said, be cheerful, because it keeps you healthy. It is slow death to be gloomy all the time. Healthy families, be they your church family or your biological family, make fun. Now, the key word there is make. Fun does not just happen. You make it. And making fun is an investment in a relationship. How many of you have had this kind of conversation recently? What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. You decide. I don't care. Let's decide over dinner. Where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't care. You decide. That can be true of your biological family. That can be true immediately after church. Well, let's go have some breakfast. Yeah, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? I've been spying on you. This is correct. When you take time, you make it happen, whatever it is. As we all know, it doesn't matter where you go for dinner. When you make time, it happens, and you go. And you have fun. We adults also need to help our children understand how to have fun. We have to be their model for fun. And that is fun without buying them a new Xbox One game. Sometimes it's hard for your spouse to have fun without the new Xbox One game, but I won't, oh, he's not here, I can't go down that path. It's no fun to go down that path when he's not here. The key in all of this is that you can't tie fun, you've got to have fun. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing we all have to do is we have to slow down. Have you ever thought about the fact that whether it's your biological family or your church family, fun is usually the first thing to go when the schedule gets busy? I'd love to do that, but I'm just so busy. Slow down. Make time to make fun. The second thing we have to do is we have to schedule playtime. We have to put time in our calendars when we are going to go and have a good time. If you're a couple, have a date night. Don't tell me that you've been married for 55 years, 59 years, whatever it may be. But even within our families, whether we're talking about our children or our grandchildren, we have to have family dates. And often, let the children choose what they want to do, even if that means that you have to eat at Chuck E. Cheese one more time. In our parish life, we have to schedule playtime. And that's what WWW is. It's intended to be playtime. And it is. And it is, says Kay. I work at that. Another way to put fun in your life is to think, is there a fun way to do this? Whatever this may be. Now, I'm not talking about some big project. I'm talking about everyday chores. Is there a fun way to do this? Is there a fun way to load the dishwasher? Yes. Most of us would say no, except for Leanne. But the fun way to load the dishwasher is to let the kids load it and stay out of their way. Don't do what we all do to our spouses, which is after they load it, we then go and move everything around because we know that they don't know how to properly load a dishwasher, right?
That's true.
Would you train them?
Is there a fun way to do some everyday thing? Drive a different route. How many of you drive the exact same route every Sunday morning when you come to church? Which is the same route that I drive Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Drive a different route. Is there a fun way to do something? In order to determine if there is a fun way to do something, we have to go back to point number one, which is slow down. I'm too busy to let the kids load the dishwasher because I would then have to reload it to correct it so that everything gets washed. We have not slowed down. We're not having fun. Another thing that we can do is to do the unexpected. Again, I don't want to hear you're married 59 years, you can't do the unexpected. I don't want to hear that you've been a member of Christ Church for the last 90 years and you can't do the unexpected. Do the unexpected. Next time you and your spouse are in a restaurant, sit side by side. as opposed to opposite each other. Sit in a different part of the nave next Sunday. Oh, now we're nervous. Now we're nervous. The Roys aren't here right now, but when they first started coming to Christ Church, James, their youngest one, always, they would go to a seat, and James would go, no, let's go sit over there. And I can remember the first month or so that they were here, I would look out, and they'd be here. And then they'd be back there in the corner, and then they were up front, and then they'd be over there. And they told us later that James always wanted to have a different seat. You've noticed that lately, James doesn't get to decide where they sit. And another way to put fun in your life is plan surprises. I know, that sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? But sometimes, when we slow down, we realize that we do have to plan a surprise for that fun element to come back into our relationship.
Plan your spontaneity.
Planning spontaneity. Now you're getting the idea. Why do we have to plan it? Well, remember what I said earlier, what's the first thing that tends to go? Is fun. I guarantee you, if this week you try to think of some way to surprise somebody with whom you have a relationship, the next thought, you'll think of something. And then your next thought will be, oh, no, I can't do that on Wednesday because I've got choir. Can't do that on Thursday because can't do that on Saturday. Because, then the list will go on. Which is why you then have to go back to planning it. Because if you want to do a surprise, then you're going to have to plan it. Okay, 2 weeks from now, that Sunday morning, I am going to surprise yada, yada, yada. Whatever it is. A second element in healthy relationships is attention. In Philippians, Paul wrote, don't be selfish, don't try to impress others, be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Human beings are innately selfish. We have the great capacity of putting our own needs before anyone else. After those 2 verses in Philippians that I just wrote, Paul then continued, you must have the same attitude as Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross.
Can I throw a wrench in?
Yeah.
So, I totally agree with that until I had kids. So then I had kids. And that's where, and it's so funny because I was just talking to another mother about this the other day who got divorced, and I said, you know, once I had kids, I feel like my marriage took second place because 99% of my time is spent on my kids. All of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else. You know, marriage is second, I'm third. My family is third, I'm fourth. I get pushed further and further back. So before I got married, I was number 1. And then you get married and you're number 2. And you have kids and you're number 3. And you just keep getting pushed further and further back. So I think at this point in my life, I'm not quite the selfish one.
But that's an interesting point, because I'm sure you're not the only mother or grandmother in here who would say that.
But I was at one point.
Oh.
I will totally admit that.
Okay. But let's think about the statement, because one of the things that can be an indicator of this kind of selfishness is not having a healthy relationship with yourself. Now, what I mean by that is we all understand as parents, fathers and mothers, how children come in and dominate the relationship, as well they should. There's a lot that we have to do for them for a long period of time. But in a healthy relationship, we pay attention to where the attention is going. And in the end, we want to ensure that there is balance in there. Now, what I started out by saying, Paul wrote, "Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others." As parents, we can take that statement and keep walking and walking, and we can take it all the way to the nth degree, where our whole focus is our children. And I think that if Paul were here, he would say, step back a little bit and look out for your own interest. In other words, there's a balance somewhere. And everybody's point of balance is going to be different. But there is a balance in there somewhere. And what Paul is talking about is when we don't, and in any way, shape, or form, look at that balance. The balance is part of the whole picture. And it's not anything that anybody else can tell you how to do. It would be great, wouldn't it? I mean, people buy self-help books hoping that it will explain, how do I have a healthy relationship with my husband, with my children, with my parents, with, fill out the list. There are tons of those books. And in the end, you can read them all, and you still struggle. And I think what Paul is trying to say, and what all of this is trying to say, is we've got to maintain a balance. Got to maintain a balance. Which means every now and then the answer is no. Later. As hard as that can be at times for us to say to our children, sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes on Saturday morning the bedroom door will be locked. We know they're not going to kill themselves, but the bedroom door will be locked. What are you doing? Go away. It's not easy. I understand what you're saying. It's not easy. It's a struggle. But then, life is a struggle. Jesus showed us how to do this. How to look for this balance. How to put the other person first. He showed us how to do it, but bear in mind that in his lifetime, he didn't show us how to do it by just completely 24/7, 365, being out there for everybody. Every now and then he'd say, go away. Every now and then he would say, you do it. Remember, we're hungry. We got 5,000 people here. Feed them. How? What do you have? 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Feed them. And then there were 12 baskets left over. It happened. How do we make this happen? How do we pay this kind of attention to others? The first thing we have to do is we have got to find time to unwind. I can't be there for you if I don't unwind. If you arrive home at the end of the day, if you arrive at Christ Church on a Sunday morning and you are stressed out, then I suggest maybe stopping at Starbucks beforehand, Dunkin' Donuts. On your way home, stop and just buy something for the family. Why? Because in the 2 seconds that you go into Walmart or Hannaford's or whatever, or Dutch Kitchen, in this 2 seconds that you go in there, guess who you're not focused on? Yourself. You're focused on everybody else. And then when you arrive home, instead of arriving home still thinking about the 100 things that you didn't finish today, you arrive home ready to say, here, got cookies from Dutch Kitchen, or whatever the case may be. Another way that we pay attention is we allow people in our lives to finish their thoughts, their ideas, their sentences, without cutting them off. Married couples can be really bad about this. Somebody starts to tell a story. Oh, do you remember when we went to Yellowstone? And then the other one comes in, oh yeah, that was just the worst trip in the world, yada, 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 yada. Having no idea where the first person was going. Why are all you married people nodding your heads like this? Listen first. That's one way of paying attention. It also shows that you value their opinion, their world. It does not mean that you agree because you are listening. It means that you value them and their opinion and their world. Some parents in here have not yet arrived. Well, actually, you have stepped over, so you have arrived at this point. But for the rest of us, and our kids were teenagers, did you ever know parents who said, I don't know what's wrong with my kid. They just broke up, but oh, what difference does it make? It was just puppy love. Did you ever stop to think that puppy love is really real to puppies?
That's deep.
What time is it? That's a little too deep for tonight.
Don't go that deep, Bill. The point simply being that sometimes listening to our children in particular and our grandchildren means really listening and not in our minds starting in with, oh yeah, but geez, they're just 16, they're just 8, they're just. Because when we do that, we have already dismissed every other word that has come out of their mouth after they began their thought. The other thing about paying attention and listening, letting people finish their thoughts. How many times have you been in a situation where a child or a grandchild just burst into tears because something went wrong, and the words out of their mouth is, everybody saw me. If I had $1 for every time an acolyte ever said, everybody saw me, no matter what it was, well, I wouldn't be really rich, but I would be having a nice dinner tonight. Our children and grandchildren believe that there is an imaginary audience out there watching everything that they do. So they fall, they play the wrong note on their instrument, they sing the wrong part in the children's choir, they light the wrong candle, and it's devastating. We adults, when they find it devastating, have a tendency to say, oh, it's all right. But what if we pay attention and listen to their sense of devastation? They don't want to know it's all right that they fell down, tripped over home plate, whatever the case may be. They want to know, do you love me? Can you make me feel better about myself? Because I feel just plain awful. When we value the world of our children, whether they are our biological children or our children here at Christ Church, when we value their world, we're paying attention. Another element of healthy relationships are memories. This will be the last one I'm going to be able to get through today. We will pick it up next week, and next week we will then start with some practical ways to put all of this stuff into effect.
Are we ending early because of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Healthy families and healthy relationships capture memories. Remembering is a very spiritual concept. The word remember and its assorted forms, remembering, remembered, remembrance, appears 650 times in the Bible. You do the math, there are only 67 books in the Bible. So that's, on average, 10 times in every book. In Deuteronomy, the historian wrote, "Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children, and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, 'Assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children.'" Remember what God did. Because to remember what God did causes you to act in a certain way. One of the reasons that we take communion is to remember what Jesus did on the cross. Indeed, we say that every communion service. The gifts of God for the people of God, take them in remembrance that Christ died for you, and feed on him in your hearts by faith with thanksgiving. When we remember that, it points our hearts in the right direction. The same can be said about our parish memories, about our family memories. We need to remember and we need to capture good memories, but we have to be very careful not to worship those memories. Remembering is a good thing. But when remembering turns into, "Oh, it was so wonderful then," we've gone from remembering into idolizing. So how do we remember? Well, we can do simple things. We can create all kinds of anniversaries. Some people a few years ago wondered why we would have a 150th anniversary here at Christ Church. Seems ages ago, doesn't it? 2013. But I heard people say, "Well, why are we going to do this? Why are we going to all this trouble?" Because it's important to remember who we are. 150 years. I know in New England we can find them going back 250 years, but 150 years is a significant chunk of time. It caused us to remember when we came into being, in the middle of the Civil War. We remember because it gave us a time to celebrate. We didn't idolize anything, we just remembered that we have a long history, and we stand on a long history today. So, all kinds of anniversaries can come up. Within your families, you can have the anniversary of the first goal that your child accomplished. Anniversary of the first solo that they sang. Anniversary of the first Sunday that they were an acolyte. Anniversary of the first time your adult child said, "I love you," which they hadn't said since they were 15. Or, make it up. Celebrate. You can celebrate decisions that family members make. You have an adult child who's in a job and they hate it and hate it and hate it, and they finally step out into a new job and they tell you, "I don't know why I didn't do this. This is great. I'm happy. It's all going well." Well, a year later, celebrate that. Find reasons to remember and celebrate those memories. Hang photographs. Just don't worship the pictures. Rotate the photographs. Why do you hang photographs? Because the photographs remind you and the other members of your family, be it biological or parish, of the little things. For example, in your family, you hang photographs, it will remind your children and grandchildren that at one point in time you had hair. And in the case of some generations, you had very long hair. He won't shoot me for saying this. I saw Dave Folding's wedding picture on Facebook. And he had a mullet.
Yep.
I mean, there it was coming down like this. It was the time. Okay? Hang photographs. It'll remind your children that, yes, in 1983 you had big hair. Women only will know what that means. Way too much Aquanet. Hang pictures, because yes, in 1971 you had a kitchen that was avocado, orange, and yellow. I know, you may still have that kitchen, but that's okay. Then in 1976, you wore a leisure suit, gentlemen. Look at Bill. No, I was in the military, no way. The thing is, those are memories. Those are memories. People pay attention to that. Enlarge those photos, especially photos of vacations. Even if all it is sitting on the beach. Don't just put up a 3x5 that you just printed off of your computer. When you're taking photographs, take them such that they can be enlarged. Because again, it's a memory, and it tells people, I value you. We have to bear in mind, in all of our families, biological or parish, that there's a fine line between remembering and worshiping. And our worship of our photographs can, if we're not careful, border on idolatry. And it can be not only the idolatry of, oh, things were so great back in the good old days. It also can be things like, don't put that picture up because I had too much weight back in those days. Yeah, you did. That's who you were. Big deal. You may still have it. Great. You may not. Great. Put the picture up anyway. What we should be doing is overwhelming our families with photos and videos of them while they were young and as they grow. Because it not only creates memories for them, it's memories for we adults. And then the last thing about creating memories, which is where I will have to end, is write letters. I realize that that's beyond the pale with our teenagers. They don't want anything that doesn't come in a text, which can then be deleted. But write letters. Send them email. They all have email accounts. Send them emails. And then tell them to go look in their email. It doesn't have to say much. I was really proud of you today. They will say to you, why couldn't you send that in a text? And your simple answer to your children or grandchildren is, because I wanted you to be able to come back and look at it. Ben and I, we do it with email now, but we used to keep smile files because, when we started 30 years ago, people still, if they wanted to say something nice to you, they hand wrote you a note. Well, now they're in a little file in our inbox, in our email account. But every now and then it's fun to go back and see what somebody said to you 10 years ago about some event. I just came across one the other day that Leanne doesn't even know about. I was cleaning out a file, and there at the back of the file was a note from Elaine Lawrence. Some of you will know Elaine. 3 or 4, Cam's 4th grade, so he was 1st grade. It must have been, when Cam was in 1st grade, you, Cam, and some others went to Elaine's one of those days we were doing caroling. And apparently, when they arrived, Cameron walked in, as only Cameron can do, and he put his hand out and he said, "Hello, I'm Cameron Force." And Elaine wrote a thank you note for people coming to sing, and all she could talk about in the thank you note was that wonderful little boy who introduced himself to me. This is also the same wonderful little boy that when Dan Martins, the Bishop of Springfield, was here for that sung Eucharist on Ascension Day, I was standing right there in Guildhall. Cam came up from taking his choir robe off, and I was standing over beside Dan, and he walked right across the room. He said, "Bishop Martins, I'm Cameron Force." Now, I don't have a note from Dan telling me he remembers that, but my point is, I remember it.
Remembers the joke. I think there was a joke.
I think there was a joke there. I'm pretty sure there was a joke. Because when Cam started and said, "I want to tell you a joke," my first reaction was, "Oh, no." Here it comes. But it was fine. So anyway, write letters and emails. Next week, we will move on to I, which is inspire.